something?
All right, I'd like to welcome y'all out to this session today, talking about the I-15 Springville Spanish Fork Interchange. For those of you who are tracking your attendance to the meeting, the check-in code is right here. It is good for the next hour or so. So today we have three speakers. We have Darren Bunker, Trevor Youd, and Nicole Williams. Darren is the project manager for this project. He works for UDOT and has done so for a number of years. Trevor works for Horrocks. He's the lead design engineer on this. Should we say that? Segment lead design engineer. And Nicole works for Kimley Horn as a project and design manager for digital delivery projects. And with that, I'll turn it over to them.
So before I start, I just want to give this project team a big shout out. This has been a very complicated project. As an introduction, the project started out as a simple on and off ramp from I-15, and it has morphed into what you'll see later on in the presentation. And so the team has really taken on that challenge and just done a wonderful job in getting through all the different issues that we have faced on this project. As mentioned, we got Nicole, myself, and Trevor that will be doing the presentation. Nicole's been doing wonderful stuff on the digital delivery front. When I came back to UDOT after a hiatus for about 13 years, I started under George Lukes, and I could only handle about 9 months of digital delivery. And so for Nicole to be spending that much time, and Ariel's here, and is Bob here too? All these folks, they've just done a great job at moving digital delivery forward. Want to give them kudos. And Trevor has been great on the project. Anytime I need anything, I just call Trevor and say, can you do this? And he does it for me, so appreciate it. Let's see here. Here's the agenda for today. I'm going to do the project overview. Trevor will do the technical aspects, and then Nicole will do the advertising, the digital delivery project, and the lessons learned. The project overview, as you can see here, our initial concept was just to put some on and off ramps, but that has morphed into actually developing a full-blown 5-lane corridor all the way from Main Street in Spanish Fork to what we call SR 51, which is headed towards Mapleton down in Utah County. As part of this, we had to cross two UPRR railroad track lines. The one line is pretty heavily used. The other line doesn't have a whole lot of train traffic on it. And so on the one that's utilized more frequently, we decided that we would create a bridge over that railroad track. Otherwise, we'd have queues that would be going out onto the freeway. Initially, our budget was $60 million. As you can see here now, we're up to 120. And so that kind of gives you an idea about the scope change as we've gone through this project. As we were trying to decide if we were going to do digital delivery on this project or not, these factors kind of came into play. I don't know if this is the largest digital delivery project, but it's up there, if it's not the largest. Definitely a lot more complex elements in this project than we have done in the past. As you know, we started out with pretty simple stuff, which is the way we need to do it. A rural road, no traffic. This one, high profile, high visibility. Politicians are aware of this project. And so there was a little bit of risk in doing something new on such a big project. A lot of different stakeholders on this project. Let me see if we're, let's see, is this going to kick off? Click on that. There we go. One of the things we implemented on this project was a full digital model. We had RDV systems put this together for us, and this was very useful. I don't know if, there we go, mouse. So, is this going northbound? Yeah. So there was a pretty well-established nickel arcade over here, and they had a billboard sign. And one of the things that they wanted to make sure with the project is that when we relocated the billboard sign, that it would still be visible with the ramps and all that kind of stuff. And so we were able to, utilizing this model, take this to the landowner and show them exactly what that billboard would look like from a 3D perspective from the road, and get buy-off on moving that billboard. That was a big deal on this project. We have multiple third parties on this project, lots of utility companies. This corridor that we were looking at has 6 power companies, including the BOR. I don't know if there's another BOR electrical facility in the state. And so that was a unique challenge in that the BOR didn't even have right-of-way because it was so old that it was prescriptive right-of-way. So one of the challenges was trying to get to move that. So in regards to digital delivery, how do you communicate with all these third parties without plan sets, right? And so we're going to be talking about that today. We also had to coordinate with Springville, Spanish Fork, and UTA on this project. Let's see, where's my mouse? Okay. These are all the different organizations that have been involved as a design team. So we have Horrocks, Kimley Horn, RDV Systems, RB&G, and Lochner. And one of the important things about this particular digital delivery project is we actually got the UDOT design team involved in doing digital delivery as well. And so they were able to gain experience. With the standards that Ariel and her group and Nicole and her team have put in place, it allowed our team to do a digital delivery project, even though a lot of these teams never had digital delivery experience before. So that's one of the unique things on this project as well, is that it wasn't just comprised of people that already knew digital delivery. There were a lot of newcomers to this process on this project. Okay, so we're going to jump into some of the unique aspects of this project. This was a hybrid project. What that means is that parts of the project were digital delivery, and some of the parts of the project were traditional delivery. Because of the unique characteristics of structures, we did the structures plans traditionally. So we created a plan set for structures. All the rest of it we did electronically just through the model. And one of the things, and this is actually the first digital delivery project in Region 3, which is the Utah County and Juab County area. So this was our first project there, and we chose the biggest project that we had going on at the time to do digital delivery on. And we were looking for that type of opportunity, right? We'd had enough experience with the smaller projects. We wanted something to cut our teeth on that was substantial. And I think I've already talked about the structures. Because of my background in engineering technology, I was willing to take this on, and it's been a good experience. So I'm going to turn the time over to Trevor now to talk about the technical aspects of the project.
All right, thanks, Darren. I'm actually going to skip back a slide. So I wanted to touch on something that I felt like was important with this project. At the onset of the project, Darren was open to the idea, and we discussed it with the region and discussed it with those at UDOT headquarters to do digital delivery. We felt like we had a team that was capable and with some expertise on the team. We had Kimley Horn, Allie, Nicole. They really set us up for success. to have things organized and been through the process before. So that was kind of a huge level of confidence that we could do this and tackle it and take it on. And just having a PM that was willing to work through those processes. And we kind of got buy-in early on from the region that we're going to test some new tools here. We're going to try some new review things, and we need everybody to be willing to probably put in a little extra time to figure out how to make this work and give us feedback along the way. And so, yeah, like Chad's here. Chad, raise your hand. Chad was a designer on this. Allie, Nick was involved in some of the review stuff, so a lot of people on the team. Larry was here, and he helped with that visual model. So anyway, it took a lot of collaboration. I don't think this was a complicated project, but I don't think the digital delivery piece at all was a contributing factor to the complication. I feel like we were able to navigate a lot of advancement and evolution in the process for UDOT. So in that way, I think it was a success. So I guess on my introduction a little more, so I've done a lot of highway projects for UDOT, a few for other states, very familiar with their processes. But this was my first digital project as a segment lead for the arterial. And just, yeah, the resources that were available through that kept us organized was key to getting us kicked off right. So for organization, UDOT's got a website that they kind of keep a list of all these resources, kind of keep a running tab of things that have changed recently and updates, and they're really diligent about maintaining that, and that's been a huge help for our designers to understand what the current state of digital delivery is. It does evolve over time. The workspace changes, different things happen that you kind of need everybody to be on the same page with, and so that's a valuable resource. And then this development delivery plan and model development standards, so I got a slide for each of these. So the digital delivery website, it has a list of deliverables by milestone, kind of what to anticipate, what's kind of the standard right now. There's guidance, documentation, and training videos on there. I think these are valuable resources for any DOT or consultant that's trying to understand the flow. And one example in the U.S. here of how they're delivering their program. And then just additional information on how to annotate and populate the metadata in your files, and what the convention is for how to name things and keep them all organized. So having that outlined up front was extremely valuable. So the model development standards is a document, and it outlines for each element or model piece of information how far to develop that design. And so a 3D element like a barrier end section, or it needs to be 3D, it needs to be in the right orientation, the right location. Some elements it only needs to be in 2D, so there's kind of four tiers of how far to develop that. And we defined that as a team early on. We kind of went through everything we thought would be included in those models and organized that so that everybody knew how far to take the design and what detail needed to be added. UDOT's got a lot of detailed guidance for roadway and drainage. Still developing utilities, all the other signing, all that kind of stuff. So And then our model development plan, it kind of outlined roles and responsibilities, who's doing what, filled out kind of some structure in the organization. We set up some recurring task force meetings just specific to digital delivery. The UDOT folks that are developing this were highly interested in what's working, what's not working on a regular basis. How do we update the workspace for what you need? And so they were valuable meetings, just had leads from each team on the project come and report and discuss and coordinate. And I think we were able to get, we tracked a lot of the feedback. I think we were able to get a lot of progression in and evolution in this process for UDOT through that task force. Okay. Moving on to design details and kind of some of the unique aspects for this project, some challenges we saw. I think with digital delivery, you're going to want to be flexible in what your outcomes are and know who your audience is. I think that's been a common theme in these meetings. The idea, the big deliverable that we're chasing is these break line files that contractors want, so that we're not translating a 3D model into 2D plans and then they're translating it back into a 3D model and what gets lost through that conversion. So the challenge is the break lines become the legal element of the contract, and it's got to be accurate and complete and useful. On UDOT's standard, there's tools to create, standardize, and check to make sure that they're accurate and complete. And we'll get into that a little bit more here. I think the one other thing I want to say is the way we've organized it with files and naming, we got together at the beginning and segmented it out into a bunch of different teams. It actually was fairly simple to break into segments, work share, all tackle, the project together, but all be standardized on what we were doing and how we were pursuing it. So the first thing that's helpful with break lines is to standardize your point name conventions for all your break lines. And so UDOT has standard how to name them so that it's familiar for all contractors. Each project, they see the same type of naming convention and that can be easy to create your finish grade, subgrade surfaces, whatever you need. Just filter by those points. And then anything unique to the project, we created a detail to kind of outline what that naming was, but just so they knew what it represented in their model. Okay, and then another tool that we used is we took our DGN break line files and created terrains, brought them into Trimble Business Center, a tool that I think most contractors use for their machine guidance and stuff. So we were able to bring it into there. You can see all of those naming for the break lines off to the side, filter them down, and then run the report in Trimble Business Center that kind of helps you hone in on gaps and overlaps and really fine-tune those break lines to be usable for the contractors. So that was a step in our QC that we did just to make sure that all the loose ends were buttoned up and that the model was pretty tight. The other element of this project, so we're trying to work with the different disciplines to understand what asset attributes need to be tracked throughout the life of the asset. And so we added a lot of metadata to each element. So here's highlighted just a concrete waterway. And we would add like alignment and station offset information, pay item information. And different elements had more attributes that we would add to help with that lifespan asset management in whatever system that ends up in the end. So this data is in the element itself. We also annotated it to help contractors if they needed to share it with subs or whoever to be able to create PDFs quickly or whatever they wanted to use it for. And then once the metadata is in these elements, it's easy to query and generate reports and track payment and all that. So I think another piece of this that we were trying to anticipate, this first, we broke the project into 2 phases. This first phase is advertised right now, so we're waiting for bids. Second phase will go out next year. And we were trying to anticipate what's our inspection staff gonna need. You know, the contractor's gonna have a DGN, they're gonna have their model that they can use their machine guidance for, but how's the contractor, or how's the inspection team gonna verify that it's built correctly? And so an example is side treatments. We felt like we would give the inspection team and the contractor for information only just all of our side treatments to show what the grading and tie-ins needed to look like. So we created those as a PDF for information only. So here's an example of those annotation files, kind of the same area, but just calling out different elements in the DGN. I think the thing to highlight here is if you have a heavy CAD staff that is used to plan production, you know, digital delivery is kind of threatening to them. We found that we actually could utilize them in a lot of other different ways through this process, which I think alleviated a lot of fear. And I think between all of the metadata and annotation and just setting up the workspace and all that correctly there's plenty of benefit to utilizing your CAD staff on a digital project. I do want to say, you know, we had different needs for different end users. So like the local governments couldn't really use some of the tools that we were using. And so we created role plots for them. Property owners wanted to see just specifics on their property, so we would create exhibits for each of them. And so, you know, we're focused on the model, we're focused on creating this, you know, digital deliverable. But there was a lot of extra time spent to prepare different things for different people. And so I think you would want to anticipate that if you're doing one of these projects, that it's going to take a hybrid approach. You're going to have to think about each user and how to accommodate them. Okay, Nicole.
Hi. Just want to start out by saying I know it's almost lunchtime. We can make it. We're so close, right? I'm going to talk a little bit about QCQA and some of the design reviews that we used on this project. If you attended Ali's session before this, some of it will be a little bit redundant, but going to try to focus on the specific project and how we utilized it for this project. We had a lot of unique opportunities on this project to pilot a lot of things, with Darren being pretty open to kind of giving us a little bit of liberty to try some different things out for UDOT, try some different formats, some different vendor softwares, just to make sure that we were kind of getting the best use and product out of those different things, and also to really just get feedback from the team. Going back to what both of them talked about earlier, we had several people on this team, including the region oversight, that had never done a digital delivery project. And so it was pretty critical for us to, get that feedback from somebody who hadn't kind of been in the trenches for years doing this over and over again. And so it was a really good opportunity for us to kind of take that feedback and then incorporate that back into those guidelines and standards that have been developed over a number of years on the digital delivery website. And so through this project, we did have some of that happen, working with Bob and Ariel at UDOT. So one of the things with QC on this project, one of the challenges we face with all digital delivery projects, is how do you QC it? And so one of the things we did is took the normal UDOT digital delivery kind of process, where you have to check it, back check it, correct it, verify it. And we also took UDOT's checklist and, sorry about that, developed our own QC checklist with UDOT specific to digital delivery. And so each of the designers in their own disciplines had to kind of go through this process where they use these QC checklists that were very specific to digital delivery. And these can be found online, I believe, on the digital delivery website. And so we had everybody make sure that they filled out these checklists that would then go to the quality auditor. So that was an important part of what we did. And those had to be completed for each discipline. And all the elements within the model had to be QC'd as well. One of the things that was really nice about this is it standardized the QC process. And this is documentation that can then be carried forward to prove that quality check and quality control was done on the project. The other challenge that we had is how do you QC a DGN, right? It's not a piece of paper that you take a highlighter to and yellow everything out, which, by the way, doesn't always mean it's been QC'd, right? Sometimes it just means somebody got happy and colored it. But we were trying to come up with how we could kind of emulate that same process in a DGN. And so one of the things that we did on this project was worked with Bob and Ariel to create item types that actually went through the entire QC process. And I believe this was the first project that we actually piloted item types for QC process on. And so there was a lot of kind of circular feedback in those digital delivery check-ins that we were doing with UDOT to provide feedback. One example was the checker needed to be able to leave a comment, and there wasn't an area for that, so we got that added in. And then the back checker needed to be able to leave a comment whether or not they agreed or disagreed in a better way. And so there was some kind of back and forth to try to make sure that we were getting everything that we needed to truly feel like we were doing a full quality process. One of the things that was nice about this is that with item types, you can use filters to kind of turn on and off and color coordinate or color code the different aspects of quality control. And so whenever the QCer, whoever's kind of overseeing it, got in there, they could look and see that 3 things in this file were missing a quality control check, and then go back to whoever was doing the quality control and make sure that they got in and did it. Or maybe we were missing a back check on 3 items, but everything else was filled out. Okay, well, there's an issue. Some process wasn't followed. So whenever it came to quality audit, we were able to actually visually see what was or wasn't done. And also those comments, because they were attached to elements as opposed to just a sheet, that element had quality control check on it that could be followed through, and would kind of keep that quality designer's intent. So say the quality control checker said, I don't think this should be here. the designer disagrees, they can write back and explain why it's there, so that designer intent is now attached to the quality control audit. So if there's litigation or any legal action later on, you can go back to that and actually show that quality control had been done and document the designer's intent behind it, which I don't think is always actually done with today's methods. So I really liked that aspect of it from a risk standpoint. And anyway, so there's just a lot of metadata that can be summarized by using these methods, and I just really liked the easy visualization associated with that. So I'm going to get a little bit into design review, which is different from quality control. I think a lot of times when we say quality control, what I was talking about is the design team actually checking their product before delivery to the client. Once that's happened, hopefully you've caught everything, probably not everything, but hopefully you've caught everything, you feel like you have a really high quality product, you give that to the client. At that point, they then need to review your product at each of the milestones, and so we're going to call that design review or oversight. So now that's what I'm talking about now, which is different from quality control, because I know it's got a little bit different nomenclature in every state. So the way that we did on this project was we actually piloted 2 separate design review software tools. And so what we did with the project, because it does have a lot of political heat to get going on it, is we split it up into 2 phases. And so the first phase is just the ramps earthwork, 2 of the ramps earthwork, as well as a few other things, the frontage roads, because from an MOT phasing standpoint, those needed to be in place before we put the ramps in. And so we went ahead and broke that out into phase 1 to get that out on the street a little bit earlier. It's actually out to bid right now, currently. So we'll see how that goes. And with the first phase, we piloted Esri as a design tool, and then we actually switched and piloted something else for the second phase, which I'll explain more. But just so you know, this is why I'm explaining 2 different design review tools, is because we actually, on the same project with the same review team, the same design team, piloted 2 different options with each of the phases. And what that allowed us to do is get some really good feedback on what worked better, what didn't work, what challenges they had with each of the tools, and really, and going back to what I said before, is they had never done it before either. And so it was just a really good kind of test subject ability for us to really understand, like, is what we're doing working for our owners? Is this actually, working for what they need to feel comfortable to actually advertise the project? So our first solution was Esri's ArcGIS Online as a review tool. And if any of you saw Derek present on this, he went into a lot more detail than I'm going to go into. So I'm going to just talk about the project specifics. But this allowed reviewers to turn on and off different disciplines, kind of similar to plan sheets. So you have your roadway plan sheets, your traffic control, or traffic and safety plan sheets, your drainage plan sheets. Well, we had the different disciplines over here. They could turn those on and off. They could expand that down, turn different levels on and off. And so tried to give them similar views or ability to kind of see those different disciplines. So if it's the traffic and safety reviewer, they didn't have to sift through all the drainage stuff. They could just turn the signing and striping on, for example. And so we started out by doing that, and then we made it really easy for them to add comments. And then I think the biggest thing is we provided training, because anytime you're introducing a new tool, that training is absolutely critical to the success of it actually working. But as well as the training that we provided, we actually offered to go sit down with them, screen share with them, so that if somebody sat through the training and still was a little confused or uncomfortable, we offered the team to say, hey, we can set up a separate time with just you. We can actually walk through the design with you, whatever you need to feel comfortable with the tool. And so I think that was really helpful in just making sure that everybody felt like they got a good review using this brand new software and kind of this new method. And so that was really good. The other thing that was really nice about this is it allowed us to document all the comments here. During the review milestone meeting, we were able to just double click on one of these, and then it would take us directly to the location of the comment. It would tell us who made the comment. The designer could respond to that comment. They could accept it, delete it, want to talk about it, whatever the dissertation was. And so it was a lot smoother than I was anticipating. When we first got to the review session, we were like, okay, what's the best way to do this? But I think once we kind of got into the flow of it and started going through it, I feel like it kind of worked itself out. And I think we went through it pretty well. And, somebody popped in and said, hey, I have to leave in half an hour. Can we go over my comments? So we would just sort by their comments and go through their comments. So there was just a lot of ability to kind of manipulate it and go through what we needed to go through at the time and, be as efficient as possible during the review. A few of the challenges is that it took a lot of time to convert things. It was kind of a newer process. Luckily we had Derek on our team, so he was able to step in and help us out a lot, but just making sure everything converted over, and then we also needed to go through and do kind of a second QC check on the GIS platform to make sure things came through, and they didn't always come through like we expected them. Sometimes one discipline would come through just perfect and another discipline would come through completely different, and we did the exact same process on both. And so there was some troubleshooting involved in it, and just trying to make sure that what was in our design is actually what was coming through to GIS, so it was what the reviewers were actually reviewing, was one for one. So that took a little bit of extra time. And then the other challenge is that we had the ability to attach PDFs to each of the elements within GIS, but there was no way to leave comments on the PDFs, and so they could click it and then open the PDF, but there was no collaborative way to all leave comments within the PDF, so they'd have to leave it within the map and then just add it manually into, and try to explain where they were talking about it on the PDF. So what we ended up doing as a solution to that was we created a Bluebeam session and sent that out, which was fine. It worked out, but it was not kind of this all-in-one package, which is kind of nice to have everything one place. So then we had reviewers kind of going to two separate softwares to do their reviews. So that was a little bit of a challenge, but that we kind of worked around. Another challenge is that you don't really have a great option for a 3D review. So that goes back to what Trevor was talking about, how we had to develop some stripped down typical sections and side slopes and stuff, because our reviewers didn't feel like they had enough information without any type of a dynamic cross-section or a 3D aspect of it. We also added in the contours to help them understand the 3D elements of it as well. But so it's not as 3D friendly as other CAD softwares are. And so those are some of the challenges. Some of the benefits of this were that it was very user-friendly. We did the training, and really it was just click on, click off, click a button to add a comment, select your discipline, into your comment. It really was that easy. So from that aspect, I think there was a lot of positive feedback from our reviewers that it was a simple process to get through having to do new process. The other thing was comments being tabulated. It was easy to locate the comments, and it was easy to document that because you can export it out to a CBS file. So all of that was really great. On the next phase, we decided to shake it up as if we didn't have enough complexities. So we were like, all right, let's do something different. And so we decided to do Bentley's iTwin review tool. And so with this one, it was a little bit different. We had to, instead of converting it from CAD to GIS like the last tool, we actually had to create iModels, and then we had to create save views within those, similar to what we did with the disciplines on Esri. We had to create save views that were discipline specific to allow people to very quickly access their data on what they're trying to review. And so we did a save view for kind of each discipline, and they were able to click on that discipline save view, and then all of the levels were turned on for that discipline. And so in that manner, it was pretty easy for them to navigate into doing that. So that was a little bit different process to get there. Some of the challenges that we had is that we did have to add individual users and kind of manage that team within Bentley software. And so making sure we had the appropriate amount of security and appropriate people on the list, and getting them access took a little bit of time to get set up, which, I think totally manageable, but that was just an element that we had to deal with whenever setting up this tool. Similar to the GIS tool, the information didn't always come through like we expected it to come through. Sometimes it came in just fine, and then we'd follow the same process and it would not come in. And so then it was just that troubleshooting back and forth, reaching out to Bob at UDOT, Bob, what's going on? And just trying to understand why following the same process didn't give us the same solution. And so I think there was several meetings that we had with Bentley themselves, the programmers at Bentley, where we said, hey, we need this, or this isn't working. And they were super responsive to our needs. And there was a few times where we were like, it's just taking forever to sync. What is going on? It's syncing for days. And they were like, oh, well, we just need to change this in the programming. Okay, now it syncs in 4 hours instead. And so it was really nice to be able to kind of have that hands-on help, kind of like our own IT people helping us with the project, because I think that, sometimes it's really simple of just giving that feedback. So it was great to partner with Bentley through this process. Let's see. Oh, the other benefits that I think were really nice is that this syncs with Bentley ProjectWise. So we store all of our data in Bentley ProjectWise for UDOT projects. And this synced with that, which was really nice. So we didn't feel like we had to convert it and then it's stored somewhere else and then it's bringing it in. It was pulling directly from our design files. So there was that, just I guess a bit of assurance that it was pulling the right things at the right time. So that was another benefit. And then, this one was pretty easy to add comments to. Similar to the GIS, you were able to just kind of add a comment, put it in, and put your comments in. And then that could be exported as well. And so the one thing that I really liked about this tool is that you could also cut dynamic cross-sections anywhere along any of the alignments. So you just, kind of choose the tool, click at the alignment, and then you could just go up and down and see, measure slopes, measure widths, all of those things. And so from a review standpoint and actually being able to see the model and make sure the model was doing what they expected it to be doing based on, what our design standards were and everything, I think that this tool did a really good job about communicating the 3D aspects of our design. Let's see, anything I'm missing? Oh, I think the only other challenge with this one was it is kind of going back to some of the stuff that they said in their other session. This took a little bit more training, especially for folks that have not done CAD for a while. And so there was a lot more hands-on training provided with this tool. There was some recorded videos and things like that for folks that could not make the trainings. And then there was more one-on-one sessions with this. And so we felt like this tool was definitely something that required a little bit more in-depth. And I think it's because a lot of people are very used to GIS. We've been using GIS. It's very comfortable. And CAD isn't, right? Unless you've been doing it day in and day out for years. And so even folks who used to do CAD, if they haven't done it for a number of years, it seems a little bit more foreign. And so I think that there was just a lot more need for that more hands-on heavy training for this tool. So as if we haven't piloted enough, I got a few more for you. So one of the things that we did on this project that I'm actually really excited about is that we use RDVs to not only develop the visualization, the 3D visualization for us, that they both did a fly-through video, but they also did an interactive platform where we could jump in and look around from anywhere on the project, including the front door of a property owner or whatnot. But they were able to take our 3D model and actually run an algorithm that analyzed stopping sight distance at any point on any lane on our project. And the reason that was so important is because if you can see this right here, the Union Pacific Railroad bridge that we were adding in was actually in pretty close proximity to our interchange. And so the city had just constructed the exact same thing, the interchange to the north on 400 South, and that interchange had some stopping sight distance with people coming up and over the bridge and then having to stop before they hit the interchange at I-15. And so the city was very concerned about our vertical curves and whether or not people could see over that bridge and stop in time. And so one of the things that we wanted to make sure that we looked into to kind of alleviate those concerns and then also to just reduce risk, liability, and all of that was we took a look at this and actually analyzed it for the design speed and stopping sight distance on every single travel lane. That way we could bring that back and say, as you can see, these places meet stopping sight distance, for every single travel lane. And so it was just kind of that good, really good gut check to make sure that that we weren't just looking at something along alignment and calling it good, but actually visually being able to see, no, we're good. So that was a really cool tool that we were able to pilot on this. Another thing that we piloted is the use of a blockchain for signing and sealing our project. And so a lot of firsts on this project. It was really exciting because as a PE, I get a little bit nervous about just signing a memo with my stamp on it and saying my files are good to go, because those files can change, right? And even if you are able to lock them down or give them a date and time stamp, that date and time stamp can be changed very easily with simply Googling change date and time stamp. Yeah, you can download those. Anyways, and so, as a PE, whenever I first heard about Modelo, I was very excited about the fact that there was something that could actually lock it down and give it kind of a fingerprint, so to speak. And so we worked with Terry and his group, and when we first put this together, and it was really awesome because they were able to kind of sit in and really provide some, over-the-shoulder feedback and just interactions with their team to really make this go really seamless. I was the one that put all of these together for the entire project. We had 19 signers on this project for all the different various disciplines, and that was, you saw how many organizations that we had involved in that. And so to have that many people kind of all contributing, and I think we had 120 files, give or take, maybe more. Okay, maybe it was 190. Anyways, we had a lot of files. So with all the files and all the people that were signing and sealing this, it was a lot to kind of wrangle and get together. And so with that, we were able to kind of seamlessly do this tool. I knew exactly when people had signed. I knew exactly when I needed to nudge them. I knew when somebody's PE license was going to expire. So just a lot of really good tools with this. So excited about this as an option for signing and sealing in the future. And I know I'm running out of time, so I'm gonna talk fast. I'm gonna talk really fast. Can you just tell me how fast I need to talk? I can go faster. All right, so advertising digital delivery project, it's a little bit different. You're gonna need to coordinate with your advertising group on this a little bit more. They're used to seeing a PDF of plan sheets. They're gonna see hundreds of files now. It's a little bit overwhelming sometimes, I think, to have that transition. And they're like, I'm not gonna get into these files and actually check. And so you are really relying on your design oversight to do that check for them and not have them do that. Really, they're just making sure that the files are attributed correctly and that they're ready to go and that they meet kind of your file naming convention list of files that are going into the project. That's kind of what they'll be doing. We're delivering, like I said, hundreds of files, so that organization is absolutely key to make sure they know what the files are, whether their model is legal document or for information only, and who is kind of the owner of each of those files. We recommend maybe at first extending the bidding window. We are putting out an addendum today to extend it for our project, just to give contractors a little bit more time. But I think until they get used to it, giving them a little bit more time is necessary, just to ease into this, we need to make sure we're partnering with our contracting community and making sure that they're feeling comfortable with this as well. And so that's kind of showing a little bit of partnership there to give them that time to kind of digest that information. And then just keeping the designer on board through all of the RFIs and then through construction for questions is pretty important, because they're going to have questions, and you're going to be more involved as a designer on digital delivery projects than you are on traditional projects. So what helped us succeed? Honestly, I think just meeting regularly. Coordination is key. Organization is key. So if you're organized, flexible, and you coordinate early, often, you get this kind of collaboration. And it was really cool on this project because I feel like we were all just one team. There wasn't a bunch of organizations working together. It was just kind of like we're all different designers, and we were all working together to kind of make one big team. So I think just having that really good communication is really important. And with that, we have 9 minutes for questions. Okay, we have one.
If I was following correctly, you said that in the RDV, you were able to analyze the sight distance on every single vein in the interchange, and was it an algorithm that was used to analyze that? Or?
We got Larry right here that can answer that a lot better than I can.
Yeah, it's a great question. Yes, it is an algorithm that we run on top of a 3D model. We've actually enhanced it even from what you've seen there, where we put the maximum speed that you could go given that environment on every 10-foot tile for every driving.
Follow-up, does that tell you or does that reveal anything that AASHTO Green Book wouldn't already reveal?
We use the AASHTO Green Book standards unless you give us some other inputs. But for example, if you're going to experiment with different eye heights, if you know you're going to have a lot of tractor-trailer traffic, we can change those variables, and then you can look at the deltas in between the results. We're not making any engineering decisions. That's what these experts are for. We're simply providing information on, given the 3D environment you've created, this is the maximum speed you can go given using the AASHTO variables.
How did you handle the delivery of staging on this project?
It's an excellent question. So in Utah, UDOT leaves traffic control up to the means and methods of the contractor. And so we provide what we call traffic limitations. And basically, we leave it up to them as to how they're going to perform within those traffic limitations.
Eichmann, did you use the where you can flag users to flag different issues or anything like that in the review?
Yeah.
Report it out to other users and stuff like that to do your QC?
Do you want to answer that?
Like assign someone the flag? Is that what you're thinking? Yep. So you saw some of those comments in there. Trying to think, when I've used it now, it's more of an automatic assignment. But yeah, that's functionality that I think is constantly changing. Bob, you might be able to answer that for me.
Yeah, I mean, that function, I mean, you can have it automatically assigned to a specific person, or you can assign it on the fly as well, or you can come back and change the assignment as well.
So, yeah, you were able to assign it. The other thing that was interesting on that is that oftentimes we had somebody make a review comment in the milestone meeting, and whoever was running it would put it in. So it would log it under their name, and so we had to kind of come up with how to assign the comment to the commenter as opposed to whoever was entering it in. So that was something else we kind of worked through with that one.
The other piece of that was beneficial, I thought, was we would collect comments, PDF or model it with all conglomerate into one table. And then you could assign who's going to go respond to the comment. And then when it was fixed, we could update the iModel and send it back to the reviewer, and it would just send them an email saying these comments have been resolved. So it was an effective tool for getting us through that process all the way.
So you talked about model reviewers using design review. What about during construction? Are you planning on
Great question. So again, we decided with our inspection crews that we would actually stick with whatever we use as our design review tool in construction. So for phase 1, we're going to be using GIS as an inspection tool and as kind of that viewer for contractors. And we basically just have a link that was part of the documents that we put out to bid that they can click on and access the GIS map. But the funny thing is that they requested synchro files as well. So we've actually developed those at this point. So we'll see what they use. But like I said, phase 1 is out to bid right now, and phase 2 should go out to bid in March is what we're planning on. And that one is going to be using synchro for sure, and not a GIS map. And so we're gonna test it out. We'll let you know. Maybe next year at IHEEP.
Showing some really good tools for design review of digital delivery. Did Utah have any existing like enterprise applications or anything that they were using for their review process? And is there any future plans to try and integrate?
Prior to this?
Right. No. Okay.
I don't think we do. We don't have any proprietary review tools.
No, and do you mind if I?
You mean internal?
Right. Like
Developed.
Florida, we have our ERC.
Yeah, we don't have
enterprise
anything like,
application.
we don't have anything like
No.
that.
Okay.
Did you have something to add?
Yeah, I was just gonna add that in the model development standards, it doesn't spell out which software, but it does say if you're doing a digital delivery project, that digital review tools are required. So that's the closest it comes to making a standard.
All right, I know you're all hungry, so thank you so much.